Hello Outside Lives, I'm Ali, a sculpture artist, and I run curiousarty.com, so please check out my website and social media. Today we're going to use recycled paper, old magazines, your imagination, some simple paper engineering, and we're going to turn all of those things into a dancing crab. So what do we need to make our crabs? The first thing that we need, very important, is some old magazines, or an old magazine. Now these have got to be those sort of thick glossy ones. You can't use something like sort of TV guide in the weekend paper or anything like that. It needs to be the thick glossy cover, so I just tend to ask my friends and neighbours, and I end up with all sorts of magazines. And then you need to find an image that you like. This is a really lovely blue colour. Oh, I've got on this one, fantastic pink texture. So that's the first thing to do. Go and find yourself a glossy covered magazine. So things you're definitely going to need: a pair of scissors, a ruler, pencil, maybe a couple of felt tip pens, a glue stick, and if you've got a bit stronger glue, that's also really useful. Other things that are going to be useful but not essential, have a look through your old felt pens. Everybody's got ones that are running out, so you need a couple of those if you've got them. And then also a glue gun is quite handy at the end, but again not essential, or also a bit of sellotape. So I've had a look through my old magazines and I found a cover that I like. This is a really nice purple cover. So I'm going to take that off. And I need to do a little bit of measuring. So what I'm going to do is measure 16 centimetres along the short side. I'm just going to go up to the other end, 16 centimetres, and I'm going to measure 25 centimetres along the long end. Make a little mark there. So I have got 16 centimetres short end, 25 centimetres long end. I'm going to cut that out. I'm going to keep this bit for later. This bit's really useful. This is the side that I want to show at the end. This is my outside part. It's going to be my outside legs. Okay. So I'm actually going to turn that over at the moment and have that underneath. And what I want to do now is along the long side, I'm going to fold it really carefully to the other side. Now, depending on the thickness of your magazine cover, some of them fold more easily than others. You really want quite a sharp fold, so I just use a pencil at the end and just make sure that's a really sharp fold in the middle. And then what I want to do is, we've got the fold in the middle, so I open it out again and I'm going to fold each edge to the middle. So this is a little bit more tricky. You just got to try and fold them into the middle. Again, I'm going to use that pencil to get myself a nice sharp line. Turn it around and do the same the other side. A nice sharp line. So what I should have now, it's a bit like a long thin wardrobe. There's two doors, and I can open it out. And if I open it out, there's actually 3 lines there. Okay, So what we've done is we've cut the rectangle, we've folded it in half long ways, then we've opened it out and we've folded each half to the centre. Okay, I'm just going to do that on a plain piece of paper now as well, just so you can see. It's a little bit tricky sometimes to see on the magazines. So I've got my 16 by 25. I'm going to make a fold to the centre along the long edge, and then I open it out and I fold each side into the middle. So I've got a long thin column, 2 doors. So what I'm going to do then again is open it right out, and let's put it back on my proper one. So I'm going to open it right out, and then you have to think Toblerones. Okay, so what I'm going to do is fold into quite a strong 3D triangle there. So what I've done is I've just from the middle folded it in, and then the other side it overlaps one side. It's quite a strong shape, that the triangle's a really strong shape, which is great, but it doesn't move at the moment, does it? We need it to move and dance and flex. So in order to do that, we need to do a little bit of paper engineering to provide some flexibility. So I'm going to show you first on the plain sheet because it's easier to see. So let's just get our... So we've got our triangle. This paper's not thick enough really, but it's just to show you how we can do it. It's easier to show you on the plain sheet. Okay. And what we're going to do is we fold it back out. So we've got the middle, the fold here. And I've drawn a line along there. That's one of our other folds. Okay, that's where we make the triangle. But we folded it out now. And what we're going to do is cut from the middle to that line. Okay, so we're not going to cut all the way down, but we're trying to cut as close to that line as possible. Now I've done some really quite narrow ones there, but I'm going to show you first. If I cut every couple of those, this is what we're trying to do. Now, adults, kids are perfectly capable of doing that. We have sort of 6-year-olds doing this in schools. It's good to practice first, because when they concentrate, they can do the cutting, but they sometimes don't always get the concept of what is the middle and what is the fold, and they'll start cutting from this side or cut right across. So we'll just put that back together now so you can see it starting to work. You see it starting to flex. So what I'm going to do now is do that on my lovely purple one. So we're going to do the same idea. We've got our Toblerone, and we're going to open that back out, flatten it. Okay, and I've got the fold this side, so this is the side that I'm going to cut from, and I'm going to cut all the way along, but only as far as the next fold. So I'm going to go cut, 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 cut. Now I could do these cuts even thinner, and that would provide more flexibility. It's a little bit stronger if I keep them a little bit thicker, but that's something that you can experiment with. Now, what kids sometimes find quite tricky is they'll do the cuts, but they're not really cutting right up to the line here, to the mark. So I'm going to show you what happens if I do that. If I don't cut quite up to the mark, if I put it back and try and flex it, this bit at the end I've cut right up to the mark, but this bit I haven't. Can you see what happens? It doesn't flex. Even though it's cut quite a long way down, just because it's got a little bit at the bottom, it doesn't flex. So that's the troubleshooting, that's the top tip. I really like this when I do workshops with kids. When it doesn't work, it's great, because then we can work out why not. And they have to look really carefully and see how to do it, and then it's amazing once they just make a little cut more right to that edge. It suddenly starts flexing. So it's quite precise, but kids are perfectly capable of doing this. And I'm just going to carry on, and I'm going to cut right to the end there. So hopefully now, if I've cut that properly, I can pull it apart and refold it into its 3D shape, into its Toblerone. And if I flex it like that, lots of people say this is quite hypnotic, and it is quite nice to do that. It's amazing. Those of you who had slinkies when you were young, it kind of reminds me of that. And you see here, I did a much better job of cutting this end, and then here I've got a little bit slapdash. There's a few bits that are not flexing, so I'm just going to take it back to where it was, have a look, see where I haven't quite gone to the edge there. I'm just going to check those and make sure I've cut. There we've got our lovely dancing crab legs. So we're just going to stick that together now. You can use a glue stick, but I prefer, because I've got a little bit stronger glue, just to stick it together with that, because it has to flex, so it's a good idea, if you can, to just stick it a little bit stronger. And we just put a bit of glue along that bottom side, and I'm just going to press inside, because my ruler fits in there, just to make sure that is flat and stuck. And although it's really tempting to sit and play with it, because I love the flex shape, it's quite relaxing. I'm just going to leave that to dry for a little bit, and we're going to start making the face, which goes on the front to make our crab. So in order to do that, I'm going to make a little template. So I'm just going to get my pencil. I've got a piece of paper here, a little bit of card. I've cut it 11 centimetres by 8. But don't worry, you don't have to be too exact. You can cut these freehand as well, but it's quite handy if you're just doing this the first time to maybe have a little template for your crab face. So I'm just going to fold that in half, and I'm going to draw kind of round little curve along the bottom for my crab, round the corner. And up to the top. And I'm going to cut that out while it's folded. So I've got quite a nice little crab body shape. And then I'm going to find another piece of paper that I like. I've also got some old children's books here. It got drawn over, so it got thrown out. So they're often quite nice colours and thickness of paper as well. So I'm just going to draw around my template. I'm going to cut out the crab body, and this is going to go on the front of our crab. Let me get my little marker pen here, and I'm just going to draw a little crab smile on there. Now you can spend a long time decorating, do whatever you like, but my little crab is just make life easy. I'm going to draw a little smile on it. So what I need to do is to make different parts to go on my crab body, and we've just done them quite simply here so that young children can make them. So what we need is 2 simple claws for the bottom, and I've just cut out a couple there, just really simple shapes. And we need 2 stalks for the eyes. So what I've done there is just cut out 2 little bits of card there, and I'm going to fold those in half, double them, just to make those a little bit stronger. And we also need for that, I've got a piece of white scrap card, little bit, and I'm going to fold that in half, and I'm going to cut 2 eyes out together. And what I'm going to do, just the white side, I'm going to just glue the little eye stalks together. And I'm going to stick the eye on the top, which way around? That way around, I think. Stick the eye on the top. A little bit too much glue there. So I've then got 2 really simple little crab eyes, and what I'm going to do is just get a pen, draw in some pupils. So now I've got my little crab eyes on stalks. I've got 2 really simple legs for the bottom, and I need to make my crab claws. Now kids often find these quite difficult to cut, so quite an easy way of doing it is, imagine you're drawing a sort of tree trunk, little short tree trunk, but instead of a tree on top you've got a pie on top, and you cut a curvy slice out of the pie. You've eaten the curvy slice. Now I've done that on a piece of paper, I've folded it over, so I've made my little pie slice, and because it's folded over, when I cut it out I'm going to have 2 legs. So I've then got 2 legs that can go on my crab, and I'm just going to stick everything together there. So I'm going to turn my crab over, the back of the crab, and I'm going to get my eyes on stalks, make sure my eyes, it's the back of them. I'm just going to stick those up so that they sit above the crab, and down at the bottom I'm going to stick my 2 crab legs, my simple ones. So I'm just going to stick those down the bottom, and I've got my simple legs, and I'm just going to stick on my crab claws. So there we go, we've got our little crab. Obviously you can do whatever expression you like. Sometimes we have crabs looking shocked because they're in the ocean and there's all the pollution. So now we've got our crab and we've got our dancing crab legs, but we need to stick them together. And this is the bit, it's a little bit fiddly, but perfectly doable. You've made your lovely flex, haven't you? Now, if you just stick your crab straight on there, which a lot of kids want to do, it stops it moving. It stops all this bit flexing because obviously you've stuck it together. So we have to find a method to make that keep as much flex as we can. So we need some more of the quite strong paper card, and I need a strip 18 centimeters by 4 centimeters. Okay. 18 centimeters by 4 centimeters. So I've measured one here. I'm just going to cut that out. 18 by 4. And then I'm sort of going to, let's have it that way up. put it together at the top, but I'm not going to make any sharp angles or anything, but I'm just sort of going to find the middle. And then my legs should be dry enough by now, and I need to find the middle of the legs, which on this one is about 13 centimeters. That's pretty important, because if you just stick it sort of along the way there, you're going to end up with a crab with one really long leg and short leg, which is perfectly fine, but just know what you're doing. I'm going to stick this one in the middle. So what I need to do is, I have the middle of my crab leg, and I go to the bottom part there. I'm just going to put just a bit of glue just on that centre part. Okay, so this glue is only on the part that doesn't flex, it's on the flat part. That's really important, the glue only goes on there. And then I'm going to get my strip, find the centre, and I'm going to glue that on there. There's a little bit of flexibility moving it, so it's a sort of cross shape there. I've glued it on the centre, so that's the bit without the flex, without the cuts on it. And then if I turn it over, I can sort of bend it in, and I don't want to glue, I'm not going to glue it to these sides, but I'm going to sort of press it against there, and I'm just going to put some glue on the top part. It's a bit like closing a bag. We're just going to stick the top part together, but it's not glued to the flexi bit. The flexi bit can still flex in the middle. So it's just glued on the bottom and not on that part. Okay, and then what we can do is we can get our crab, and we're going to stick that to the front of there. Okay, so we can stick the crab, we can put some glue on the front of there, just on our strip. We're not putting any glue on our curvy flex, and we're just going to stick the crab quite carefully on there. And if we look at the back, we can see how it's stuck there just onto the strip, and the flex can still move there. So now we have made our our dancing crab. Well done. If you'd like to, there's another bit that you can add. It's all working fine now, but we can add another little bit to help you make it walk or dance. So this is when our little pens that have run out come in handy, or a couple of sticks from the garden, also fine. And it's quite handy to have our glue gun now. You could do it with sellotape, but it's a bit stronger with the glue gun. So I'm just going to get the two ends right at the end of my flexi bit, and when I'm thinking, I'm going to stick these sticks out behind the crab. Okay, so they're not coming out the front, they're coming out behind the crab. It's like a little puppet that I can manipulate then. So I'm just going to stick a little bit of hot glue right at the end there, and I'm going to stick on my pen. I've just got to make sure that dries. I'm going to do exactly the same at the other end. I'm going to stick that on and just leave it for a moment so that it dries. And then once it's dried, don't be impatient, you can use those to help make your crab walk and dance and jump. Also, you've made one crab, fantastic, but magazines and bits of paper are all different sizes, aren't they? So is everybody's imagination. So this is a crab, but why don't you have a think, what else could you use this flexi paper mechanics for? What kind of other animal or movement could you use it for? Why don't you invent your own creature and see how you can fit this in. Could be an elephant's trunk with flexi legs, who knows. You can also experiment with size. So here I have got a mini crab that I have made. He's a baby dancing crab. So well done with your flexi crabs, and experiment, use your imagination, have a go, see what you can make.